This just occurred this past November. A close friend and I were on fall break from college and decided to go to a concert in downtown Chicago. We grew up in the suburbs, so going to Chicago to have fun was common for us. Anyways, we had a great time at the concert and decided to Uber home since we weren't close to the train station. My friend told me Uber wasn't working for him at the moment, so I called the Uber, but this was literally my first time ever calling one, and I accidentally called an Uber pool, not knowing what it was. My friend saw that and was like, it doesn't really matter. So the driver picks us up from right outside the concert venue. There was a lot of intoxicated people around, as one could imagine, but we were pretty sober as all we did was smoke some weed, which we were used to. We get in the car and everything is going normal, but we didn't notice the direction the driver was taking as we were wrapped up in talking about the show. Turns out the driver was going to the south side of Chicago, which we realized after some time by looking at the maps. But our suburb was exactly the opposite direction of this lengthy drive south. We decided to attribute this to the fact that it was an Uber pool and shrugged it off until we picked up this next passenger. To be honest, this girl scared us. I don't like to judge people, but she scared us just by her looks and how she talked. Once the girl got in, we asked the driver where we were going first, to which he stopped answering. Next thing I know, my phone lit up and said the Uber trip was canceled. And for this duration of the ride, Uber had no record of me being in the car. I asked the driver what the deal was and he didn't answer. The girl and the driver 100% knew each other as they were calling each other nicknames. The girl was being weird and seemed to be doing some hand signals to him. Then we proceeded to drive further south to this neighborhood, the sketchiest neighborhood I've ever seen. I didn't realize neighborhoods like this even existed. Every house was completely wrecked, there were no street signs on most streets, most streetlights were out and flickering, homeless people were lying on sidewalks, and there were beat down warehouses and alleys. This was by far the scariest area I'd ever seen. No one who cared would hear a scream in this area. Once we started seeing all this, our hearts dropped because the driver would still not respond to us. My friend then looks over to me and whispers, "We need to get the fuck out of here." To which I reply, "Dude, look where we are." And so we stay in the car. Then we get driven down this alley behind a warehouse where the streets ended and there were just fields beyond it. The driver is going down this alley at like 2 miles per hour but keeps going. The girl and Uber driver were clearly discussing something serious, but we couldn't make it out since they were mostly using signals. At that time, our hearts sank even more and we literally both thought we were going to be killed in this alley, or at best, somebody was going to get in the car and rob us. He stopped, the doors unlocked, and I was in complete shock with a pale face when all of a sudden my friend said, "Hey, I'm completely sober and I'm about to call 911. I'm assuming the driver was waiting around the concert to pick up some wasted people to allow this to happen, but we were pretty sober. He was serious about it. He had dialed 911 on the phone. The Uber driver looks back at us in shock after he sees 911 dialed and my friend's finger about to push call. He looks at the girl, and the girl is in shock too, and she nods her head, no, says, "What the heck, Rye?" driver's nickname, and gets out of the car. The driver then drives out of the neighborhood and onto the highway towards our suburb. All of a sudden, my Uber app gave me a notification saying that we were now in a ride. All of a sudden, the driver starts talking to us again, but he wasn't giving any answers, just saying he's driving us home. We were asking, "What the heck just happened, dude?" And he just wouldn't answer, stuff like that. He would answer about where we were going, but nothing about what just happened. We got home safely and reported the Uber driver for this ride because it was obviously messed up. We think that the driver was trying to wait for wasted people to call a pool so he could get away with this, but realized we were too big of a risk when it came time to do what they were going to do. We've accepted that we were part of a mugging scheme, and got lucky we decided to not get drunk at the concert. We had anxiety for weeks after this, but we now know just how sketchy some areas can be and how to be safer in Chicago by not calling an Uber pool outside a concert and bar. It's so weird to me that people live such sketchy lives and do this to people, but it was eye-opening. It was Atlanta 2005-ish. My best friend was in town and she was able to get us a nice hotel room near bars with her points. Pre-Uber and Lyft, obviously. We got back to the hotel late, but before midnight, and we were intoxicated but not blackout drunk. Got ready for bed in our pajamas and fell right to sleep in the queen-size bed. She had accidentally put down just one occupant on the reservation and we didn't bother to update it upon check-in. Several hours later, I woke up bleary-eyed and saw a tall man just staring at us and, in my stupor, calmly asked, "What are you doing here?" My friend then woke up at the sound of my voice and asked what was going on. He seemed frozen like a deer in headlights. He told us he was hotel security and there had been a report of a disturbance and he was here to ask us to quiet down. Confused, we told him we had been asleep for hours and he told us okay and to have a good night. He walked out the door and we went back to sleep. The next morning, we went down to talk to management because, as we discussed, we realized something very strange had happened. Management talked to my friends and then called someone more senior to talk to her. I was on the phone watching from across the room. As they brought out the second person and they spoke with her, she became sheet white. It had no on-site security team and nobody had called in any disturbances the night before. They immediately moved us to a different room and upgraded the rest of our stay. To this day, I wonder if that room was targeted because it was only supposed to have one woman in there at the time, and when the person saw the two of us, they panicked and decided to not move forward. I also wonder what would have happened if our reaction was not tempered by alcohol and a dreaming state. If we had screamed, would that have triggered something more sinister? I was driving late at night on I-90 between Deer Lodge and Missoula, Montana. I'm originally from Seattle. I was driving back to Seattle after visiting my family in Bozeman and Billings. The stretch of freeway between Deer Lodge and Missoula had some weird small mountain towns along the side, occasionally interrupted by large truck stops. Anyway, it's about 11:30 at night and I'm on my way to my hotel in Missoula when I notice that I need to get some gas for my car. I stop off in this random small town with one gas station, with a 24-hour pump. It had a convenience store attached to it, but it was closed. I got this really weird vibe from the station as soon as I pulled up to the pump. I hadn't turned off my car yet. I had just put it in park, and the engine was still running. I was about to shut off my car when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw some dark figure come from the side of the closed convenience store and start running towards my car. Some instinct in my head kicks in and I put my car back into drive and get the hell out of there. I look back in my rearview mirror to see the figure chasing after my car for a few seconds. By that time, I make the turn that gets me back onto the freeway. I found a brightly lit truck stop about 10 miles down the road where I filled up my car. Needless to say, that weirded me out for the rest of my drive to Missoula and Seattle. I've heard it before and I experienced it that night. Strange things happen in the mountains. Some clarification of some things in this story, by the way. It happened in 2009, so while smartphones did exist, they weren't as prevalent or as good as they are today. Even with my flip phone I had at the time, I was getting next to no signal on it. I simply chose the first place that said it had a 24-hour gas pump. Secondly, the events at the gas station happened in a span of about 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah, it happened that quick. I arrived, parked, went to turn off the car, saw a dark figure run towards my car, put the car back into drive, burned rubber out of there, saw the dark figure chasing after my car, and tore ass up the on-ramp back onto the freeway. About as fast as you could read those sentences, that's how fast it happened. Finally, someone mentioned the story of the Wendigo. I've heard about those stories before, but I wasn't isolated up in the mountains. This was less than a 30-second drive from the freeway. One thing that I do know about that area of Montana is that it had a bad meth problem. It still does as far as I know. I think the dark figure was likely a desperate meth head looking to rob someone. But after you've been driving for hundreds of miles, your brain will go to some weird spaces, given some time. I'll never really know who or what that figure was. I don't think I ever want to. For context, I'm still in school and work for my family member on certain weekends at a local college selling concessions at the stadium. It's about once or twice a month and the stadium is off towards the edge of town. It's Friday night and I had just gotten out of school, but I had to go straight to work. I get to work for about 4 hours, half shift a night, and my boss, my aunt, tells me that we need more spoons for tomorrow's event. We sell ice cream and these events have like 5,000 people at them. I say, okay, I'll go grab them on my way home. The only store open with heavy duty spoons is all the way on the other side of town and I still wanted to go meet up with some of my friends and mess around. I decided to take the faster but more sketchy way around the outskirts of town. I live in a weather bipolar state. It snowed last night, but I figured the roads would be fine enough even if they weren't plowed. I take off to the store and the first 5 minutes go by and nothing's wrong. I haven't seen a single car or any buildings the entire time. But keep in mind, it's approaching 9 p.m. and I'm on the outskirts of town. Nobody really takes this way unless they have to. All of a sudden, I see something in the corner of my eye and it looks like a man. Roughly 5'8", I'd say, wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and a backwards hat. He's in a ditch, walking in snow when it's 10 degrees out. My first thought is to pull over, but I'm on the phone with my mom at the time and she warns me not to, as some things have happened before in this town. Example, a couple of years ago, a college girl was kidnapped and found dead, rolled up in a rug in 2014. I consider stopping, but for some reason I tell myself not to. I wasn't really worried about anything. I'm a young dude driving a big pickup truck. Last type of person anyone would want to harm, right? I passed the man going about 40 miles per hour. Like I said, roads aren't the best. I drive not even 500 feet past him and immediately, a car that I did not see at all before turns on and pulls out of a field entrance off the road and starts to follow me. At first, I thought I was just focused on the man in the ditch and didn't see a road, and that's where they came from, but I later found out there was not a road there. Now again, I'm not super worried. I've watched my fair share of crime movies and read plenty of stories on the sub, and I didn't feel it was a threat yet. I start to approach the town again and have to take some turns to get to where I'm going. I turn left and the car turns left. I turn right, the car turns right. I go around the roundabout and skip my turn and go twice as nobody else was there. A car follows. At this point I start to worry a little, but maybe they just need to go to the store also. I then pull up to a stop sign. I wasn't on the best side of town either, may I add, and I turn without my signal. The car follows. Now at this point, I should have gone straight to the police station, but I still didn't think much of it. I'm 2 miles from the store where plenty of people will be. I take a few more turns and the car continues to follow me. I completely blew a stop sign at a non-busy intersection and the car does a quick stop and go and catches up. At this point, I'm 2 turns till the store, so I'm still not worried. I turn into the store and the car turns also. The store also has a gas station, so I pull there first to act like I was getting gas. The car sits off to the side of the road in between the gas station and store and just sits there. I wait about 10 minutes and the car doesn't move. Now I start to get worried. I'm a young kid alone at night, near the bad side of town. I call my friends I'm supposed to meet up with later on and give them the license plate for a worst case scenario. Then take off to the store. I cross the street and the car comes straight behind me. I'm freaking out on the phone, not knowing if I should call the cops or not. I go and park as close as possible to the store and the car parks 3 rows behind me and a couple down. It's getting late and the stores are closing soon. There are only a couple of others in the lot. I turn my truck back on and go park on the complete opposite side of the lot, get out and completely bolt inside of the store. I'm not super overweight, but I'm not skinny either. About 6'1" and 200. Who would want anything to do with me? I get my spoons and take my time in the store. I go to call my friends to walk back outside and my phone is dead. I look out the sliding doors and suddenly there's a white van next to my driver's side. Looks like nobody's in it, but the back windows are covered and it's running. Big red flag. I run to customer service and explain everything, but they think I'm some young kid messing around. At the time, I didn't see the original car that was following me, but no way in hell I'm going outside with that van next to my truck. After waiting what seemed like hours, probably 30 minutes, the van pulls forward and the original car appears from the side of the building. You can see from the in-store Starbucks window that they talked and both drove off. I wait another 10 minutes and dash outside. I speed to my friend's house, and when I get there, I park in his garage. My one buddy asked why there's a big orange mark on my tire, and my heart sank. When I was inside, the car following must have marked my tire. After inspecting the rest of the truck, we find a small pipe dropped in the bed of my truck, surrounded by snow. It was about 2 inches wide and I'd say about 18 inches long, wrapped in duct tape. It was not mine. I was alone with no phone, scared in a part of town I'm not familiar with. I tried to laugh it off, but now that everybody's asleep, I can't help but think, what would have happened if I walked outside? I've always been sort of ego boosted by the fact that I'm a chubby fat dude that nobody would want to mess with, but after tonight, I realize anyone can be targeted. The police came and took the pipe today, by the way. As multiple of you said, and I knew already, they can't really do anything about it as nothing really technically happened. They said that they'll look into the license plate, but other than that, nothing much can happen as no crimes were committed. This story happened a few years ago. I was in my early 20s and I was studying in Paris, France. I was going home from uni. I usually took a short bus ride and walked the rest of the way. That day, I felt slightly uncomfortable. I could sense some guy looking intensely at me. I was used to unpleasant, unsolicited gazes, but this time, his gaze felt beastly. It's hard to explain why, but I felt like prey being stalked. I decided to get off the bus a few stops early. I wanted to avoid him and didn't want him to see where I usually got off. Like I learned in the movies, I waited until someone else pressed the stop button and waited until the last moment to stand up and leave. I didn't notice him getting off the bus. Just as I was feeling the relief of having escaped an uncomfortable situation, I looked over my shoulder and there he was, a few meters behind. I had the distressing feeling that his eyes had just looked away the moment I turned. I walked into a shop, took my phone, and pretended to be taking a call. When I couldn't see him anymore, I exited and made my way home as fast as I could. I kept looking back in the busy street. I zigzagged and crossed the street at every crossing. Finally, I believed that him getting off at the same stop as me was just a coincidence. When I reached my building, I looked back one last time and there he was, his alarming gaze on me, smirking. I ran up to my apartment, climbing the stairs, 4 at a time. I reached the top floor, squeezed through my door, locked it, and froze. Not long after, my intercom was ringing. Don't ask me why I picked it up. I regretted it the moment I did it. I could hear the opposite flat intercom ringing as well. He had pressed all the buttons one by one, hoping somebody would open. But now he knew my name. Gabrielle. Oh shit, I felt like a deer in the headlights. Frozen. Open the door, please. Said a pleading voice. I just want to talk to you. Somehow I couldn't move or speak. Come to the window, he added. Look at me. You'll see, I'm not a bad guy. Something clicked. He wanted to locate my apartment in the building. I was not going to make that mistake. I hung up in shock. Waited by the door without moving for what seemed like hours. When I finally managed to calm myself, I called my long-distance boyfriend. He told me to call the police immediately. Why didn't I call the police? I don't know. Today, it would probably be the first thing I would do. The fear of making a big deal out of something not important, perhaps. What an idiot I was, I don't know. I called my best friend instead. I didn't want to feel alone. I told her all about it, and after a while I felt better and safe. We started laughing. Suddenly, the intercom rang again. 2 hours had passed since I'd come home. Gabrielle, said the voice. Open, please. I still remember the chills I felt. He was still there. He was there all this time. I was silent and petrified. He was silent, but I could sense his trepidation. Gabrielle, let me in. I'm so thirsty, he said. Just give me a glass of water. This broke the tension. I curled up in a corner, literally in the recovery position, Terrified, I waited. I was scared to make a sound. I knew he couldn't hear me from the hall, but I was scared to even breathe. The intercom rang again and again. I crouched on the sofa and fell asleep in exhaustion. I heard the intercom ring one more time in the middle of the night. I woke up in the morning afraid to leave my apartment. I called my dad, who came to pick me up. There was nobody in the hall, but there was a note in my mailbox. "Gabrielle, I'm a nice guy. You should have opened up to me." We immediately went to the nearest police station. The police listened and, of course, told me I should not hesitate to call them. My dad called a locksmith to install a digicode on the building door the same day and wrote a message to each of my neighbors asking them not to open the door to anyone they didn't expect. He sat in the cafe in front of my building with 2 friends every evening for more than a week. I never saw the stalker again. After this episode, I used a different route to and from uni every day. I kept my phone tightly in my hand and looked back every few meters. Today, I'm still very observant of my surroundings. Never answer the door if I'm not expecting somebody. So people, if you ever find yourself in any kind of uncomfortable situation, call the police and don't be an idiot like me. Be safe, everybody.